In its origins, early Buddhism operated on a remarkably strict aversion to any kind of superfluous metaphysical speculation. The original teachings were strictly soteriological, focused entirely on the practical mechanics of deliverance and escaping human suffering through the guidance of a charismatic authority. Centuries later, however, the landscape of mainstream Indian Buddhism underwent a significant change. Later Buddhist schools developed complex, full-scale philosophical systems. They built academic empires dedicated to categorizing every fragment of experience. This creates a tension between the Buddha's rejection of speculation and the exhaustive ontological models built by later masters. In the absence of a living teacher, these scholars realized that the path to liberation required a definitive map of the universe's mechanical structure. A full philosophical system requires 5 working components: ontology, epistemology, soteriology, logic, and method. The systematization of this specific Buddhist doctrine was authoritatively completed in the Abhidharma Kosha Bhasha. It was composed in the 4th century by Vasubandhu, one of the greatest Buddhist authorities of ancient India. The sectarian rivalry over these theories was so intense that Vasubandhu reportedly traveled in disguise to Kashmir to study the closely guarded Sarvastivada doctrines. The text was rapidly translated into Chinese and became a standard authority across East Asia and Tibet. Vasubandhu's framework proceeds from a single premise: the study of salvation explicitly requires the study of being. Liberation is achieved through a rigorous, granular, epistemic categorization of reality. The text establishes its primary operational rule immediately. There is no method to appease mental defilements without the precise discernment of factors. This introduces the concept of prajna, or understanding. The system defines prajna strictly as dharma pravichaya, the active, clinical discernment of factors. Etymologically, a factor, or dharma, is that which upholds its own inherent characteristic. It is an irreducible building block of experience. This analytical discernment serves as the core daily practice of the tradition's monastic scholars. To achieve enlightenment, the practitioner's mind must learn to break the universe down into these fundamental units of reality. We can begin constructing the Abhidharma ontological map with its first major binary split of all dharmas. The first category contains the impure factors, known as sasrava. Factors are classified as impure because defilements, or fluxes, adhere to them and grow concordantly within them. The second category contains the pure factors, or anusrava. These are free from any positive relationship with those fluxes. Impure factors are synonymous with the appropriative aggregates. They are governed by defilements and constitute the very mechanics of existence. Understanding this precise split is the necessary first step to isolating the mechanisms that bind human consciousness to the cycle of suffering. From here, the taxonomy moves to its second level, the classification of reality into conditioned and unconditioned factors. A conditioned factor is defined as that which has been made by various causes and conditions entirely coexisting together in an assemblage. In this system, no conditioned factor can be engendered by one single cause. It is always a web of conditions. Unconditioned factors are not made by causes. There are only 3: space, cessation due to deliberation, and cessation not due to deliberation. Following this deductive logic leads to the Sarvastivada classification system. This maps all of existence into exactly 75 dharmas. This diagram shows the scale of that 75-factor grid. It maps everything from basic material form and pure thought to complex mental concomitants and unconditioned reality. 46 of these factors are dedicated solely to analyzing thought concomitants, proving the system's intense psychological focus. This 75 dharma matrix provides a calculable grid intended to encompass everything in both mind and matter. How does the Vaibhashika system determine what actually exists? The answer relies on the concept of conventional truth and the definition of a provisional entity. We can demonstrate the rule of material analysis using a physical object, like a clay pot. If the conceptual notion of the entity disappears when physically broken, it exists only conventionally as a provisional entity. Mental analysis follows. Cognition resolves the broken components further down into elemental properties, like base sensory data. This reduction continues until cognition hits an irreducible barrier that cannot be analyzed further. These irreducible nodes are absolute truth, the true real entities. The macro world we experience daily is a provisional illusion. Only these fundamental components possess absolute reality. To exist absolutely, the factor must possess an intrinsic nature and manifest activity. This technical algorithm acts as the primary weapon against suffering. By mapping the 75 absolute dharmas, the practitioner trains their mind to stop cognizing provisional illusions like pots, enemies, or the self. By seeing only the fundamental mechanics of real entities, the mind actively cuts the fluxes and achieves cessation. The Abhidharma Kosha Bhasha serves as an applied science of the mind. The ancient Buddhist masters constructed this vast ontological spreadsheet to mathematically identify and dismantle the root of human suffering.